As a language teacher with now almost 3 years of experience, I'd like to say that I can start noticing some patterns. For some things, we're all very similar. And this is not meant in a positive or negative way. It's just like that. When we want to learn a language, we make some mistakes that other people make. We make some very good things that other people make as well. We want to achieve some goals that other language learners want to achieve. Today I want to focus on the negative aspects, and I want to see with you what are the limits, what are the obstacles, what is hindering our language learning experience. When my students do these, I just say no, not again. Number one, stop focusing on your language, your native language. We always compare this language to the new language. Comparing is not bad, but sometimes we are too hostile to changes. Faccio colazione. So in English it must be I do breakfast instead of I have breakfast. This is, by the way, called a collocation. So for a native speaker, this sounds natural. I was having a lesson recently about modals used for probability. And in this context, Italian and English are quite similar, to be honest. So I actually took advantage of that and also used some translation to show that we have a very similar pattern between English and Italian. But then, if you look at other aspects of the language, they could be so different. Let's make another example just to give you context, especially if you don't speak Italian. Ho mangiato, which is the passato prossimo, which if you look at it, have as an auxiliary, and we have the past participle, which reminds us of the present perfect, because in English the present perfect is exactly the same. I have eaten. Io ho mangiato. Why wouldn't an Italian person in their right mind just say these are basically the same thing? They aren't. Another thing we never consider is these languages are rooted in different origins. One language could be Latin or Slavic or not even Indo-European. Comparing different linguistic families is very challenging to find similarities, and even if you do, it's just coincidence sometimes, or at some point they crossed their paths. But a lot of people do not accept the fact that some things you express in your native language, it won't be easy to express them in another language. Maybe you'll need more words, more expressions. You'll need to say an entire sentence to express one word in English, or vice versa. Let's make a very simple example with ti voglio bene. Ti voglio bene in Italian is an expression which is lovely, and it basically means I love you, but in the sense that I care about you. I wish you well. I want you to feel well, and I want you to be at peace. I want you to have a good life. I want you to have a good day. I want anything that's good for you. I just wish that for you. We do not have an identical expression in English for that. In English we'd say love you, just like ti amo. But ti amo in Italian is I love you. I have a deeper feeling for you, like a feeling of love for you. Listening is another very hard piece of the puzzle, because listening, whenever we listen to a native speaker, we notice that they speak extremely fast. Chaos, shock. It's just, rambling at a certain point. Because when we learn a foreign language, those people have spoken that language their entire lives. We are just approaching the language. We still aren't familiar with vocabulary, expressions, idioms, maybe some grammar structures, some sounds, some phonemes. We're not familiar with linking. We're not familiar with the tones. The element of surprise is huge in new languages we're learning. The most frequent mistake is giving up or trying to just listen to things that are extremely easy and you can understand 100%. But the challenge is to try and listen to something slightly more difficult, and you do not need to grasp every single word. Understanding 50%, 60%, understanding some words, listening to the musicality of the language, listening to it more and more times. It's not a sin, it's not wrong. That's actually good. Another very frequent mistake is not trusting teachers, and maybe I'm a little bit biased, just a tiny bit, but when you listen to a teacher, you believe you know what you're supposed to know. Let me paraphrase. You start your lessons and you believe, I need to learn this grammar structure, this vocabulary, this is what I need, this is what I want, and the teacher must follow that path. However, a teacher can notice some patterns even when we speak about something, even when we focus on another aspect of the language. Teachers usually try to give variety, not doing easy stuff, doing things which can be very useful for everyday life, everyday conversation, even if in that moment it feels pointless or ridiculous. This is actually helping us. When we use our native language, we do not even realize certain things we do. A teacher can understand this, but maybe a student doesn't. We have different goals for a language. So for example, if I want to improve my listening skills, I'll do a lot of listening. I'll practice a lot of it. But at the same time, we probably need to tackle some different aspects and not just listening, because listening only won't solve maybe some kind of underlying issue that we do not even see. Please try to find something that you like about the language. I kid you not, so many students dislike the language they're learning. They do not like the process, the language. They just don't want to do it. This is so difficult. It's so difficult. And you're not expected to like every single step of the journey, but try to find aspects that you like. Create a routine that makes it bearable, likable, enjoyable. If you're not liking it at all, fix it. There's something you need to fix. Otherwise, it's going to be painful. It's going to be a pain in the neck. Even worse, a pain in the ass. You won't like it. You won't dedicate the efforts, the energy you actually need to learn a language. The biggest mistake that I see, and this is like something that just students have to deal with time, consistency and patience. If you're not consistent and you're not patient, you will not learn the language. Do not trust those people who say you can learn a language in 10 days. You can learn a language in 2 weeks. You can learn a language in a month. Yeah, you could make some serious progress, maybe in a month or two, absolutely. Kudos to you if you do that. But you can't learn a language in that period of time. You can't possibly grasp a C1 level, a B2 level, if you're starting from zero and you're not giving it the time, the effort, the energies, again, the time, the patience it requires. Children and adults, some language learners, they've been studying languages for years. And that's why, for example, I adore watching Luca Lampariello or Steve Kaufman or other language learners. I'll leave you some of my favorite creators below, because they speak about the fact, I've been learning Turkish for 7 years. I've been studying German for 3 years. I've been practicing this language for 5 years. This is how you get to a language, and that's how you get to a specific point. And a lot of students just imagine and expect that 5, 10, 15, 20 hours will be enough. Spoiler, no, it will not be enough. No teacher, no tutor, Nobody wants you to waste time. But basically, there are some skills that just require time, and we can't do much about it. And languages are tricky. They can be tricky. And some people might be gifted or talented or hardworking, and they might learn a language within a very short period, very few weeks, but that could be very intense. And other people, which is the norm, the regular, kind of situation, will just start learning and studying and developing and progressing slowly with time. It's not a narrow window, it's a very long period of time. And that's okay, that's completely normal. I've also filmed a video about toxic traits that teachers have and beliefs about teachers. So if you're curious, I'll leave you the link here. I'll also leave you my newest vlogmas because now it's December, so I've decided to film also weekly vlogs. Bye bye.